Hey everyone, Miss Danny here. I am ready to talk about lesson two, which is your short stories from two perspectives. This one is pretty straightforward, so this will be a nice short video, but I wanted you to have something to kind of go back to if you needed a little bit more information. So the assignment says that you are to do a short story. So maybe an excerpt, one single scene from one of our books from two perspectives. Normally, in the books that we're reading, there is a primary perspective already. The story is being told from their point of view. Sometimes this is in first person. So the author is using words like I and me and we. And then, so it's definitely told from that person's perspective. Sometimes it's from third person, and all people are, their names are being used. There's no I or me, but there's still a primary character. A great example of that would be Little Women, where it is written in third person. We see the use of the name Jo, but most everything is from her perspective. And the information about what she's thinking and what she's doing is more detailed than the other characters. So while it is not from her perspective, she is still the primary perspective that we understand as we read the book. In either case, the opportunity to do a 2-point perspective paper, it really doesn't change a whole lot for you. So let's take, for example, a beautiful scene from Little Women. It's the first one where Jo and Laurie interact, and it is at a dance. Poor Jo, she has burned her dress, so she has decided to stay close to the wall. And Laurie doesn't know anybody, so he's kind of acting shy. He's at a party with a lot of strangers, so both of them run into each other while trying to hide. And the result is that they end up having their own little miniature party. They're dancing and goofing and laughing in the hallway, just the two of them. This could be a great opportunity to do a 2-point perspective paper. We could write, what is Jo thinking during this time? And also, what is Laurie thinking? You can do this one of two ways. Now, it does say a minimum of 1 page. Let's assume you are doing 1 page. You could start by writing half a page from the perspective of Laurie or Jo, using I and me. You are acting as though you are that character. You are using first person from their perspective, and do a half of a page, and then you can completely switch and start using I and me, but do it from the other person's perspective and tell the same story. Now, that is totally fine. Make sure you put a heading, though, at the beginning of each of those sections. Jo's side, however you want to title it, Laurie's side. Make sure it's clearly marked so that we know who is talking, who is thinking in those moments. Now, you can do the entire story from both of their perspectives. So if we're talking about this dance, you can start from Jo's perspective, from when she enters, how she's feeling. Then she runs into Laurie. Now they're playing, and then Meg arrives. You can do that whole thing, and then you can do the whole thing again from Laurie's perspective, or you can have the perspective change partway through the story. Perhaps we start with Laurie's point of view or Jo's point of view, and the first half of the story is told, and then we switch perspectives in the second half. You can even have a little bit of overlap. Perhaps we start from Jo's perspective, trying to get ready for the dance, go to the dance, how she's feeling, and then we see how she feels once she meets Laurie and they're having fun together. Then we switch perspective. Laurie talks about from the moment they meet and they have fun together. And then we hear Laurie's perspective of what happens after the drive home, how he feels when he gets home, about having met Jo for the first time. So you can have overlap. You can have two distinct timelines. You can have them kind of chain up together, however you want. The other way you could do it also is to not just have it be half and very distinct. You could have it switch. Okay, and that would be written similar to a script perhaps, or with smaller headings, depending on how often you're switching back and forth. But perhaps you start by saying, here's Jo's perspective, and there's only a few sentences, just a short description, and then it switches to Laurie's point of view, and we hear what's happening with him, and then Jo, and then Laurie, and then Jo, and then Laurie. That's okay. Just make sure you're clearly marking what's happening. Again, if they are short, maybe only a sentence or two, Consider formatting it similar to a script and just make a note at the top that all of these things are in the thoughts, in the head of the characters rather than spoken. Or if you are switching back and forth a few times, but each one is a small paragraph, go ahead and use the headings like you would with the two major sections, like we previously discussed. Really, either way is great. Just remember at least two perspectives and make sure it's clearly marked so that when we're reading it, we know who is thinking what. It does need to be inspired by one of the books. It does not have to be Little Women. That was just a great example because we have two characters interacting for the first time, and that could create a lot of great thought processes. But it can be really any scene from any of the books. Just make sure that there are two perspectives on what's happening. And this will be most dramatic, most awesome if their perspectives somehow are opposite. So, for another example, if you're wanting to create a little more tension, perhaps it is from the perspective of Meg and Lori, who don't interact at all. And so, here is Meg. She sees her sister disappear, doesn't find her, and then when she does, she is dancing with all kind of reckless abandon with a near to perfect stranger. I can't imagine how Meg must have felt. She's awful proper. So perhaps to create a little bit more drama and shock in your stories, try telling it from the perspective of two people who might see what is happening through very different lenses. Either way, this is a fun assignment. You don't really have to create a whole lot. Just remember to use that first person and clearly mark it, and it needs to be at least a page. All right. I will see you all soon. Bye.